Now, reflecting on last week's election, I want to first acknowledge the hard work by every segment of our system to get out the vote and pass measures that will directly benefit our students in our state. The voters of California have approved key funding for long overdue improvements to our facilities and infrastructure. They have also voted to extend temporary tax increases to provide some stabilization in state funding for education and healthcare. I also want to echo the statement made by our Chancellor, Eric Skinner. The California community colleges remain steadfast in our commitment to diversity and inclusiveness. We will continue to serve all of our students, including our dreamers. And I have a message specifically for each of our more than 2 million students. Know that whether you supported President-elect Trump, Secretary Clinton, or another candidate, that your community college will remain a safe place to learn, participate in social, cultural, intercollegiate, and other extracurricular activities, and to peacefully exercise your freedom of expression and association. Now, at our meeting today, we will elect a new president and vice president of the California Community Colleges Board of Governors. As this will be my last meeting, we have term limits for officers, which I'm grateful for. I hope that you don't mind if I take a moment to reflect on what we have been able to accomplish together. As every member of this board knows, our service on the Board of Governors is not the flashiest job in state government. There are some who continue to be confused about our roles, responsibility, and authority within a very complex higher education infrastructure. But perhaps without overtly acknowledging it, we've taken a cue from President Reagan, who kept 2 small plaques in his desk in the Oval Office. One read, "It can be done," and the other, and to paraphrase the other one, it says, "There's no limit to the amount of good you can do if you don't mind who gets the credit." As a result, a lot of good has been accomplished within our system and for our students in the years since the Great Recession. We've strengthened the transfer pathway to the California State University and introduced more than 2,000 new associate's degrees for transfer that guarantee admission and junior class standing for community college students. We'll hear more about that later, and it's been so successful that we've expanded it to include more than 20 historically black colleges and universities, and the UC system is implementing a similar model. We launched the Student Success Task Force and later adopted and acted on more than 20 recommendations that significantly enhanced access and success across our state. We launched a task force on workforce, job creation, and a strong economy. We adopted and are acting on more than 20 recommendations to enhance career technical education and workforce training to meet the demands of California's diverse economy and labor market. The legislature and the governor have responded by providing significant additional resources in support of this effort. We launched the first baccalaureate degree pilot programs at 10 campuses and are looking forward to the remaining 5 programs launching in 2017. We restored City College of San Francisco to full autonomy, and together with the CEOs and other partners, we're working on major reforms in the system of accreditation for our community colleges. Most importantly, we have recruited a dynamic new leader, a historic new leader for the system, and are delighted that Eloy Oakley will begin as our chancellor in just a few weeks. Progress this far, this fast, and in this, the largest system of higher education in the nation, only happens when you have a great leadership team and a strong, diverse board of governors that works toward a common purpose. We may not always agree on every issue, but there's never been a time when we have lost our focus on student success and accountability. During my time on the Board of Governors, we've been extremely fortunate to have outstanding individuals chair this board, including Lance Izumi, Debbie Malumed, Scott Himmelstein, and Manuel Baca. And of course, the entire system has benefited from the exceptional and visionary leadership of Chancellors Jack Scott and Bryce Harris. But however, since this is my last meeting, I want to pay a special tribute to 3 individuals who have been extremely important to me personally as I fulfilled responsibilities as your president. The first is Gary Reed, who first approached me about serving as an officer. Remember CPEC back in the day when it was there? And has always been there with guidance and encouragement. Second is Cecilia Estolano. She shouldered much of the responsibility of leading this board and this system, especially chairing our successful search for a new chancellor. But more than a colleague, she and her wife Catherine have become true friends, and for that I'm grateful. Finally, I said this in July and want to underscore again how fortunate this system is to have Eric Skinner in our leadership ranks. The progress I mentioned earlier, along with the significant priorities that we continue to pursue, simply would not be possible without his skill, knowledge, leadership, and personal warmth and friendship. He cares deeply about the mission to which we are all devoted, and I'm grateful to him and his team of vice chancellors for effectively guiding this system now, and I hope well into the future. Thank you. That concludes my president's report. Chancellor?
Thank you, President. And it seems like a fitting time. We were going to do this a little bit later, but it was a great overview, I think, of a lot of the tremendous progress that has been accomplished over the last few years here. And it's our tradition at this meeting to present and I know we're getting ahead of the presidential election for the next board president, but it's our tradition to vet the outgoing president. And so I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank President Baum for his tremendous leadership. He's been an outstanding president of the board, and his leadership on the board extends well before that, back through the Student Success Task Force and weathering the budget crisis. But more recently, we have the accreditation travails, and as well as the restoration of City College of San Francisco, the strong workforce program, the build out of the student success initiatives that came out of the Student Success Task Force. It's a long list of tremendous progress, and that would not have been possible without the really effective leadership of President Baum. He's consistently on target and keeps us as a system on track in terms of making progress on these critical initiatives. He's been an eloquent leader and communicator on behalf of the system, a great advocate. And so with that, I would like to present President Baum with this plaque.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, and maybe we can get some pictures with that later if you want. Yeah.
But you can continue.
Okay, so I just had a couple additional items to mention during my chancellor's update. First, kind of picking up on the theme on the elections. I begin with the presidential election, and just note that obviously the presidential election has raised a lot of issues, and it was a hard fought and bitter campaign, followed by a very close finish that really stumped and stunned pollsters. So I think collectively we're processing a lot of new information, and I think you see that at the state level. You also see it on the campus level. And I think that as we move forward, I think that it raises some critical issues. First and foremost, how do we pull together as a nation after a very divisive contest like that? I think that it's incumbent on all of us and as leaders in this system and as citizens to find a path forward where we can try to heal and move forward as a nation in a constructive way. And additionally, kind of closer to home with our mission leading the California community colleges is investing the time and energy it's going to take to really understand the education agenda of President-elect Donald Trump. It's a topic he did not talk about much during the election, but as our president, he's going to have a significant role in shaping those policies. And so we're going to have to invest time and energy as a system deciphering what that agenda is, and working on that and doing our best to engage. So those are a couple of the broader issues. In addition, I wanted to note, and President Baum referred to this his comments, but over the course of the last week, we heard considerable concern coming from our colleges about the possible implications of the election of Donald Trump, particularly on immigration policy and how that could play out for our students, in particularly our undocumented students or our dreamers. And so in response to that, and in an attempt to try to ease some concerns, to show our support, our office issued a statement, and it went out under my name, but I can tell you it really reflected the beliefs of our broader team here in the Chancellor's office. And I just wanted to read briefly from that. It's one of the passages in the statement read, "While the presidential election has been divisive and has sparked anxiety and uncertainty on our campuses, we will always embrace the values of inclusion and diversity and support all students who want to build better lives for themselves and their communities. No student should forego the opportunity to apply for financial assistance at our colleges." And then the statement goes on to provide information and resources about how students, including undocumented students, can find information about Board of Governors fee waivers, Cal Grants, and privately funded institutional scholarships that in our state are available to undocumented students within the Dreamers category. So we felt that it was important to go on the record early on that, and again try to put out a healing message that showed support and again kind of would reemphasize the values of inclusivity that are really fundamental to our system. Transitioning a little bit, again, President Baum referenced it, but the passage of state ballot measures, Proposition 51 and 55 were fantastic news for our system. Prop 51, which is the K-12 and community college state bond measure, will provide important resources to help build new facilities and modernize other facilities across our system. Proposition 55, which extends personal income tax increases to provide funding for K-12 schools, community colleges, and the healthcare programs. Again, great news for our system in terms of providing some fiscal stability. We really appreciate the confidence of the voters in terms of stepping up and backing both those initiatives, and we look forward to following through on the implementation to make sure that those resources are used effectively to advance the educational mission that we care so deeply about. And then I did want to take just a brief moment to notice that this is National Apprenticeship Week. It's and apprenticeship programs are critically important to our system and our state, and they provide pathways to good paying middle class jobs, and we're very proud of the apprenticeship programs that the California community colleges offer, and we will be putting out a statement to that effect this week. So I wanted to take a brief moment to acknowledge National Apprenticeship Week. And then finally, my last comment is just about the transition. And again, President Baum referenced this, but I just, from my perspective, I wanted to weigh in and indicate that this will be my last meeting as the interim chancellor, and I really appreciate the support and the trust that the board has placed in me over the last 7.5 months. It's been an honor. I am looking forward to returning to my regular job as the deputy chancellor and serving incoming Chancellor Oakley in that capacity. We've had some great transition meetings with him already, and not only with myself, but our whole leadership team here. And I can tell you we're really excited about what lies ahead. You picked a great leader in Chancellor Oakley, and I think we have a lot to look forward to. So with that, I'll close my comments.
Thank you, Chancellor. We're going to move on to the consent calendar and the action items. Item 1.1 is the consent calendar. It's the meeting minutes. I hope all the members have had a chance to review the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Move approval.
Second? Okay, motion by Member Haynes, second by Member Burdick. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? The minutes are approved. We'll move on to the action item. Item 2.1, there's just, I think, one or two contracts. There are two contracts on that. And so, Chancellor, if you want to introduce that topic.
President Baum and board members, this action item is the approval of contracts and grants. To present the item is Vice Chancellor for Communications, Paul Feast.
Good morning, President Baum and Vice President Estolano. We have two items. The first item is one that was on your agenda from last meeting. It had an error, so it's back before you today. The second item is a renewal of a contract for some technology involving firewalls for security. Thank you.
First off, we'll see if there's a motion to approve the contracts as recommended. So moved. Is there a second? Okay, motion by Member Belinsky, second by Member Khan. Any discussion or questions for our Vice Chancellor? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much. We now move on to the next item, which is our calendar for 2018. We introduced the calendar at our last meeting. I hope everybody's had a chance to review the dates and see, has anything else come up since? I'll entertain a motion to approve the calendar of dates for our board meetings in 2018. Is there, okay, motion by Member Burdick, second by Member Sumner. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Seeing no objection. Okay, we're moving on to now the election of board officers, the thing I've been looking forward to. Okay, at our last meeting, we'll take the election of officers one at a time. We'll start with the president. At our last meeting, Vice President Estolano was nominated to be board president. Before we move to a vote, I wanted to see if there are any other nominations for president. I had received none in the weeks since. Seeing no further nominations, I'll declare the nominations closed, and then we'll just go to a voice vote on this one. All those in favor of Cecilia Estolano as president of the Board of Governors, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Congratulations, President-elect Estolano. And if I recall, the president actually takes office at the conclusion of this meeting. So then we move on to the vice president. At the meeting in September, two of our board members were nominated for vice president, Member Belinsky and Member Epstein. And I wanted to see if there are any other nominations for vice president of the board. I received no other nominations in the week since. Seeing none, I'll declare those nominations closed. During the in the week since, I've received a couple of requests that about how we conduct an election when there's two candidates for the same position, and a couple have said, "Can we do a paper ballot?" Any vote that is taken is a public vote, but we can do a paper ballot. What will happen if there's no objections? A paper ballot will be distributed. You write the name of the candidate, and then Karen Gilmer will then read the votes aloud. There's actually, we've done, in my time, we've done the election in several different ways, so there's no single way we've done it. But I wanted to see if there's any objection to using the paper ballot method this time. Okay, seeing no objection, if Ms. Gilmer, if you can pass out the paper ballot, or Ms. Castro will pass out the paper ballot, and then they will be collected, and then Ms. Gilmer will read the votes as they are collected. Oh yeah, it's announced my name. And they are read. Badgley Keene requires us to be on the record by name is how we vote. Okay, has everybody finished voting? If we can collect the ballots. We have a paper ballot, so there can be no rigging of the election. Yeah, no chance. So then, are you going to read them one at a time, or are you going to tabulate and then read by name? Go ahead and read it one at a time.
One at a time, I think.
And then who will be tabulating for you?
We'll put them in a pile.
Okay.
Pamela Haynes has voted for Tom Epstein. Jeffrey Baum has voted for Tom Epstein. Iman Dalili has voted for Tom Epstein.
Oh, there should be one vote for the student, I believe.
Oh, true, that would be his son.
I'm sorry about that confusion. Correct, Jacob, because the student vote has one vote. So thank you. We'll consider that an advisory vote, Mr. DeLillo.
His son Khan has voted for Tom Epstein. Arnaldo Avalos has voted for Tom Epstein. Gary Reed has voted for Tom Epstein. Cecilia Estolano has voted for Tom Epstein. Joseph Balansky Jr. has voted for Joseph Balansky Jr. Tom Epstein has voted for Tom Epstein. Nancy Sumner has voted for Tom Epstein. Jeffrey Burdick has voted for Tom Epstein. Valerie Shaw has voted for Tom Epstein.
So by my tally, the vote is 10-1, and Member Epstein has been elected Vice President of the Board of Governors. Congratulations, Member Epstein. Well, I'm glad that we have elected our officers for the coming year. I wanted to invite the two new officers to say anything if they wanted to say a word.
Thank you, Jeff. I want to thank everybody for their support over the last 2 years. Jeff, thank you for your kind words during your statement. I really appreciate that. And I think mostly I want to thank you for, as you thank Gary, I think it was you who approached me, you and Manuel, about running for vice president a few years ago, and that really has changed the trajectory of my ability to contribute to this board. So I really appreciate that. I also appreciate your leadership and your partnership. As I've been your vice president, you have really brought me along and taught me the ropes, and I just have so greatly benefited from that. To Eric Skinner, what a wonderful leader you are. And I bet you can't wait to get back to your old gig, but I'm so glad you're still with us because your steady hand is critical. And then to the members of the board, appreciate your support. We have a really exciting year ahead of us, but I think it's very important that we have steady leadership and that we're very certain about who's at the center of our agenda, and that's all students in California, regardless of their status, regardless of their race, ethnicity, or religion and gender identity. California has always been a beacon for opportunity in this state, in this country, and I think all eyes are on California to continue to hold true to the very best values of the people of the United States. So thank you for your support.
Member Epstein, Vice President-elect Epstein.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the support of the board, and I did want to talk about Jeff's leadership as the president the last couple of years. I've just seen such kind of class and diplomacy and just thoughtfulness about all the various constituencies that are involved here, and I think you've done a fabulous job. And of course, Cecilia, the superstar vice president, honing in on every issue, really understanding everything and helping us, I think, all to understand kind of the nuance of some of these items that are often very complicated. And I look very much forward to working with her. And to all the constituencies in the community college system, I'm excited about spending a lot more time. I think most of you know that I had a full-time job, and I'm leaving at the end of this year so that I can spend a lot more time on this role, and I'm really excited about that. I intend to get out and really meet a lot of other people, and And I also just want to comment on Eric and what a great job he's done filling in here in this interim period. But lastly, I just want to say that the election that just occurred, I think, it certainly caused turmoil in the industry that I'm in, and I think it is going to roil the waters here a little bit. And I just want everyone to know that I firmly believe in giving every student, regardless of their immigration status, the opportunity to succeed in our system, and I hope we fight very hard to continue that.
Thank you very much, and congratulations. We'll move on to item 2.4. It's the relocation of the Palmdale Center, Antelope Valley Community College District.
All right. President
Mr.
Baum
Skinner.
and board members, this action item presents for your approval the relocation of center status from an existing site in the Antelope Valley Community College District to a new site within the district. To present the item is Vice Chancellor for College Finance and Facilities, Mario Rodriguez.
President Vaughn, Vice President Estolano, members of the board, Chancellor Skinner. As part, the way that apportionments are set up, which provide the bulk of the funding for the community college districts throughout the state, is that there's a portion of it, the vast majority of it is actually allocated on a per FTS basis, on a per student basis, but there's a portion of it that's dedicated for fixed costs to acknowledge that every college, every center, every site we have has an amount that's fixed, that's a base cost, and that allows them to serve students. And so what this board controls and what this board approves is how we allocate funding for those costs. And so when a center or a college moves sites, like we're about to talk about in just a second here with Antelope Valley's Palmdale Center, they have to come before this board to get approval. And so Antelope Valley has requested that they're moving to move sites to better serve their community, the Palmdale area. And so with us today, we have Superintendent President Knutson to talk a little bit about the Palmdale area and the need for the site change.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for the time this morning. I truly appreciate it. This request is part of a comprehensive plan for the college that builds into our facilities master plan as well. In 2011, when the process for building a center fell through in the east side of our service area in the east part of Palmdale, we leased a facility from LA County in an existing office building. And that office building is still occupied by other tenants besides us. We have about 18,000 square feet on a floor and a half in a building that was never designed for students. So trying to move 2,500 students around inside an office building with a couple of stairwells and an elevator that truly holds 4 people has been a challenge. Everything from the strain on the facility, and it's nothing wrong with the current landlord or the building, it just never was designed for students. What we were able to do, we're paying $3.53 a square foot for that 18,000 square feet, and we were able to work with a landowner in a shopping center or a strip center about 8 blocks east of the current location. So we'd be moving from the 1500 block of East Palmdale Boulevard to the 2300 block of East Palmdale Boulevard. Puts us a little further east, a little easier access for the eastern portion of our service district. We've been able to acquire 50,000 square feet. 45,000 will be in direct instruction and the remaining 5 in support areas for $1.10 a foot plus common areas. So we have tripled our capacity for service in that area, and at a beginning price relatively close to what we're doing. We were able to get that price because we entered into some lease revenue bonds and we're paying for the TIs ourselves, which lowers the rent considerably because our cost of money is much cheaper than the developer's cost of money. We look forward to that. We have applied and the substantive change request has been approved by the Accrediting Commission. The plans for construction have been approved by DSA, and we eagerly look forward to your approval today so we can move forward and serve. This is part of a comprehensive plan that, with the passage of our bond measure this past Tuesday, will allow for the college to grow over the next 12 years to meet capacity needs into the 2030s. We will grow from a capacity right now of our current enrollment's about 15,000. We have a capacity for about 22. This will give us the opportunity to grow that capacity to 30,000, a little bit over, in relatively the same locations as we are. So we feel that it is very fiscally prudent. It plans and holds the college in good stead for the next 40 to 50 years. And we're looking forward to being able to meet the needs in the community for that long a period of time as we grow forward. By the way, we are celebrating our 88th year this year.
Congratulations. Before we go to a motion, are there any questions? Member Haynes?
Thank you very much. So I have two questions. The first question is, in reading this, you are absolutely expanding what the offerings are, which is absolutely fabulous. And what I'd like to know, and it appears, but I'd like you to confirm it or not, it appears that a student who can go to Palmdale can get very close to or at 30 units in general ed, or is that not the case?
They'll be able to get all of their general ed requirements at the Palmdale Center.
Okay.
One of the things that we have noticed is on the west side of our service area, we are typically running between 25 and 30% participation in local high schools. On the east side, it is in the low to mid-teens. And so this additional capacity there in that portion of our service area will be significant in meeting the needs of that area. But we will have a dry lab and a wet lab and computer labs. They will be able to get all of their general education requirements there, and we're planning 1 or 2 programs they'll be able to complete there as well.
That's great. But my second question, you also are expanding the student success and wraparound services in terms of resources, and I'm wondering the staffing. Are you planning to move folks around in terms of those particular areas, or is there an ability to have full-time support services housed there or not?
Actually, we'll have a blend of both, and we've already started that planning. We will have some permanent staff on site. We're going through the process that we have created a dean's position to oversee that, plus all of our extended learning offerings. But in addition to that, we will have counselors on site full-time. We will have the bookstore, and some of those services will be somewhat intermittent, only because the rush is the early part of the semester and then it drops off. We have also made arrangements for health services to be provided 5 days a week, and we have expanded that to provide also at least diagnostic dental services as well, and mental health services.
Thank you, and I just want to commend you that this is located where there's public transit there, which is very helpful for many of our students. So again, thank you for your efforts.
Certainly, there is a bus stop right out front, and I told the director that when she hits 5,000 students, we'll buy a bus.
Well, Member Belinsky?
I don't have a question, but I do want to make a comment. Whoever wrote the analysis, it's really great, the amount of information and the kind of information. But I do want to say thank you for the information about the classes and courses and that sort of thing, especially the comment on Math 99, because as we know, basic skills is a major problem for many students when that's what they test into or get placed into, and that you're going to go through an acceleration process at this center, I think is really worth commending and noting.
And why don't we take a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Move approval.
Second by Member Reed, motion by Member Estolano. Any other discussion before we go to a vote? All those in favor of the recommendation say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations. Did you have a comment that you wanted to make?
No, and you can make it back in time for your flight.
Yeah. We'll now move on to item 2.5, implementation of the fall 2017 faculty obligation number. Chancellor?
President Baum and board members, this action item presents for your approval the determination that the 2016-17 state budget provides community colleges with sufficient funding to trigger an increase in the faculty obligation number for the coming year. So this is a regulatory requirement that the board can make this determination on an annual basis. And to present the item is Vice Chancellor for College Finance and Facilities, Mario Rodriguez.
Again, thank you, President Baum, Vice President Estolano, members of the board, and Chancellor Skinner. As Chancellor Skinner noted, this is more of a formality. Since Prop 30 passed, since the economy started to pick up again, this board has chosen every year based on seeing substantial increases in growth funding, COLA, or cost of living adjustments, substantial base increases in the budget, as well as the restoration of other categoricals such as the DSPS and EOPS and basic skills funding. Every year since then, we've seen this board make the determination that, yes, the increases in FON should be realized by the colleges. And so what we're coming before you today is to request or to recommend that the board makes this determination this year as well. Now, as more of an informational item or information part of this, in years past, we've had the due date for the districts to report what they actually hired around mid-November. This year we moved it up based on requests from this board. So we had 71 districts give it to us within by last Friday. And so what we provided to each of the board members is an update of where the districts are at. Yep. So I think district by district there'll be a different number. Obviously, what they did with the resources, but I think there's one thing that I really want to point out that's pretty important. If you remember, 2 years ago we received $62 million in the budget for full-time faculty hiring. This is the first time we're seeing those dollars actually reported. The effects of those dollars actually reported, and so because of that $62 million, we've seen roughly a 668 FON or employee increase into the FON base. So it went up by 668. That year, we also seen, because of the growth, the amount of growth we had in the budget, another 220, so about 888 increase in FON. The actual increase, there was some concern that because so many districts are over their FON, they wouldn't necessarily have to hire. We were pretty vocal about wanting districts to hire additional faculty and to make sure that they were increasing their faculty obligation what they're actually hiring. What we've seen was about an 803 increase. So the vast majority of those dollars went to increasing their district's percent or amount of credit instruction being taught by faculty. So I think it's a success story for our system. It's what the state leaders wanted us to do. I'm happy to take any questions on any of this stuff.
I have before I wanted to see if there's other questions. I had a question. So it's my understanding that, so they're counting just pure bodies in this, as opposed to the amount of instruction that's delivered by a full-time faculty member as opposed to a part-time faculty member. Because as I look at, say, Barstow, and I say, how can a school have only 38% of
Yeah, so when the FON started, it said, the bill passed, it said, take what you had last year as your FON number, as your base, as your actual bodies. Mm-hmm. And then every year, if you grow 2%, roughly, the calculation gets pretty complicated, but roughly it says if you grow 2%, that number goes up by 2%. If you decline 2%, that number goes down. It's like a treading water number more than it is necessarily growing. And so this really is more reflective of what the district was doing many years ago.
It doesn't mean that Barstow only has 38% of its students receiving instruction. I mean, 8% of its instruction is being delivered by full-time students.
Yes, it does.
It does mean that?
Yes. That's what it means. So you have some districts that are at the 75 mark. You have some districts are in the 30s. And it really, and you'll see with the rural districts is that because an extra faculty member is such a big issue for them, they're generally lower on those scales. So if you look at the rural districts like Barstow or Tahoe, they'll generally be a little bit lower than the other districts will be.
Sure. Okay. Just my philosophy is always a student in 90% of the cases, the student is better off by having a full-time faculty member in their classroom that they can access after hours. And Jonathan Lightman, I see, is in the audience, and we've talked about this for a long time, and it frustrates me to see how long it takes these numbers to move, and there's such a wide disparity. And I feel for my own district, Pasadena, that we should be in the 60s, not in the lower 50s, and that I call on boards across the state to say, what's it going to take for us to make sure that we're hiring more full-time faculty in the classroom? Because I think our system's better, and I think it leads to higher student success if they have faculty who are going to be on campus and working with them and all the way through. So I support this, but I wish I hope that in the future too, with our new chancellor and new administration, we could still look at more creative ways to kind of shrink these gaps and get everybody much closer to the 75% than we have.
So,
okay, Member
so
Avalos?
thank you for the presentation. My question is, if we're looking at this here, I just want some understanding of what we're looking at. So, if you just go to the totals, right? You have multiple columns here. Can you go through the columns and tell us, what we're looking at, so we have a better understanding?
Got it. So obviously, the first column is the district. The second column, obligation. That's their actual obligation. That's the number that they adopted many years ago and has been increased or decreased based on how the district's grown or declined. The full-time actual is what they've actually are hired as of the fall or as of this fall. So that's how many people they have. So there's 19,000 full-time faculty employed, tenure-track faculty employed. The difference is that means there's our funds 17,700. They have 19,100 hired, so the difference is 1,400. Though they're over their fund by 1,400. And then the next three columns are just the full-time, what they actually hired, the part-time, what they actually have as a part-time faculty, and then that's just used to show the percentage. So we really hold them on years when this board makes the determination that you can implement font increases. What they're saying is you need to hit your obligation. In years where it doesn't say that, if there's a recession, they're saying you got to at least hit the same percentage you had in the prior year.
Do we know how many districts are actually under their fund obligation?
I believe 2. Yeah, and so what you'll see is that, it could be something where they grew a large percent, and then you had this additional 62 million hit at the same time. It could be they lost a vice president of HR. They had some other issues, some retirement they weren't planning for. So we end up, there's no incentive because the state, what our office does is we take back money that would roughly equate to what the cost of the extra full-time faculty member was. So there's no incentive to get below, because if you go below, those districts will end up sending them a bill for roughly $75,000 for each member.
I think it's important to understand how many we actually have under, right? Because it's more than 2. I see at least 10. So I think it's important to understand how many we have under the FON requirement and to find out what are we doing to help them, get to the FON requirement.
The chancellor wants to weigh in on that.
And if I could just briefly, I mean, this is a fairly convoluted formula and regulation, and to understand it, just to frame it, I think it's useful to do a little bit of history on it, which is the state passed a law that set a goal of 75% of our instruction being taught by full-time faculty. It was a fairly broad statutory statement. Our system then took the step of developing Title V regulations to implement that. And what we came up with this formula, this faculty obligation number formula that Vice Chancellor Rodriguez mentioned, is a treading water formula. Essentially what it does is it takes in place that point in time when the state legislation was enacted, and wherever that baseline was, and some colleges were quite low and some were much higher, everybody had their own individual, each college had its own individual baseline. And then the requirement was that as the state provided more funding to add students, in particular credit students, that the increases in the credit full-time equivalent students would trigger a commensurate increase in the percentage increase that the college would have to hire more full-time faculty to keep pace with that. So essentially, it kept from sliding backwards. It didn't really drive aggressive progress towards that 75% goal. And, the reality is I think this is a regulation that was crafted in our system some time ago that nobody likes. It's a formula that everybody loves to hate, because whether you're on the side of saying that our system should aggressively increase the percentage of full-time faculty, well, clearly the regulation does not do that. If you're on the other side of the equation trying to figure out how to pay for the increases in full-time faculty, you'll hear from many of our chief business officers and others that they would love to hire more full-time faculty. It's just a fiscal issue. They can't afford to do it under the funding structure that California supports its community colleges. So we're stuck in the middle on this one. And I think having that context to realize that, I think there's a collective desire to increase the percentage of the number of full-time faculty and the percentage of instruction led by full-time faculty in our system is pretty much a universal goal. It's a challenging one to meet. And then lastly, that in terms of the history, not this last state budget, but the one before that, the state provided about $60 million to fund increases in full-time faculty. And I think that was an example where you saw a broad coming together from our various stakeholders, both from labor, but also from the chief business officers and chief executive officers who are responsible for balancing budgets. You saw it coming together saying this is the way to move forward. We made some progress in that budget, and maybe it's illustrative or instructive in terms of thinking about how we could approach this as a system. So sorry for taking a little bit of time there, but I think having that context is important.
Before we go on to additional discussion and a possible motion, we have two members of the public that want to address the board, and then we'll go back to board member discussion.
Okay, we have Jonathan Lightman and Lynette Yoga.
Thank you, Mr. President, Chancellor, and members. Jonathan Lightman on behalf of the Faculty Association of California Community Colleges. I heard my name, but I had already submitted a card, so we were on the same page here. First, I want to say that we support the motion before you because this is consistent with the fiscal environment as it pertains to the regulation. I do want to say, relative to the 2015-16 budget, where we got $62.3 million, as part of the Budget Act, there was supplemental reporting language that said specifically, on or before June 1, 2016, the California Community College Chancellor's Office shall submit to the legislature a report that analyzes the effectiveness of regulations in moving a greater number of districts towards the system goal that 75% of credit hours be taught by full-time faculty, and includes recommendations for a revised faculty obligation number methodology to better address that goal. This is something that we still need to do as a system. This is something that the legislature has asked for, in fact, has tasked us to do. Now, just a little bit on the history, I do need to correct a couple of statements that have been made. The goal that is contained in the Ed Code is not the legislature's goal. What the legislature has said in statute is that until such time that we reach that number, they are going to recognize your goal. This is from the Board of Governors. And in fact, it goes back to a goal that was passed in 1977. As there had been some misstatements over several meetings that this was a number that was just simply made up. It wasn't. It was developed over time. The legislature recognized that the problem was that they tied it to the program-based funding, to something specifically called program improvement. Program-based funding does not exist anymore. We're in an equalization model, and when they did the bill to move us from program-based funding to the equalization model, that statute was left alone. So we clearly have our work ahead of us to examine both the statutes and the regulations that have kept us in roughly 55% when the goal of 75 in statute was approved in the late 80s. Thank you.
Good morning. My mic is not on.
Go ahead and take Jonathan's mic.
Just move over. Okay. Good morning. I'm Lynette Yoga from the Community College Association, an affiliate of the California Teachers Association. I just wanted to respond to President Baum's shock at the 38% and say that this is the problem with the FON. And I am the only person here today who was a member of the, what we called the Sacred Cows work group, which was looking at the interaction between the 75% goal and the FON, possibly the 50% law. So looking at all those things that we live with, regulatory language, and trying to figure out a way to make it towards that 75% goal in a way that still preserves the fiscal stability of the system. So we made it part way, and we reported out where we were, and we said we needed more time, those of us who were on that group. And I would like to appeal to the board today to ask for us to have more time to work on this. We're a small group. We're made up of many components of the system, and we would like to present some ideas, some constructive ideas about that you could look at about how to deal with this very low percentage that we have in some colleges of full-time faculty. And it's a given. We all know why full-time faculty are important, so I won't even talk to you about that. But I would appeal to you on that so that we can go forward and come up with a constructive solution. Thank you.
And we'll go back to member discussion. Member Belinsky.
I want to ask a question to make sure if I'm correct or not. The faculty obligation number is about instructional faculty.
No, it's both. Yeah, it's tenure track faculty, both.
So student services and instructional?
Yeah. So the 50% law is only instructional, but.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Member Haynes, then Member Epstein.
So the formula is extremely convoluted, and as I was listening, I now have more questions than were answered. But my so one of them is because the formula is so convoluted. Part of me says we kind of need to fix it, but the other part of me says you have to have consenting bodies to move in the direction of trying to, because there's interest on both sides of keeping the status quo as opposed to moving in another direction. But my question really goes to, as we look at pathways to CTE, the increase of faculty that may or may not be full-time, but definitely needed based on expertise. Does that exacerbate this number?
So if you're hiring more part-time instructors because they fit a need in the CTE world or any other realm of our institutions, that will impact the percentage. And that's kind of what we see during periods of growth already. As you know, you grow, generally speaking, when you offer the first year of that section to see if it's going to stick, you do the part-time route, so that ends up affecting the overall percentage between full-time and part-time. But any growth in FTS, whether it be from a part-time faculty member or a full-time faculty member, will trigger an increase in the FON base, which will make your ultimate hires higher, even if it distorts your full-time, part-time mix a little bit.
Okay. Thank you.
Member Epstein, then Member Estolano, Vice President Estolano.
Thanks. Just one observation, which is that I do think things that are complicated and are not yielding the results that we're hoped for, I think is worth revisiting and at least taking a look at seeing if there's a better way to do this. The other one is a question, and it's just purely out of curiosity. I noticed on this list that the City College of San Francisco has the top percentage of full-time faculty, and I was curious if that was true throughout the process. Has that been a result of a lot of part-time people being laid off, or do you happen to know?
No, it's they've historically been very high, and so I don't have the back numbers off the top of my head, but they've been one of the higher districts for a long time.
Vice President Estolano.
So just to totally nail down the use of terminology, this tells us the percentage of faculty that's full-time that's employed right now, which is different than a goal of having 75% of the instruction to students being performed by full-time faculty members.
Correct. Yeah. So
if the number we really care about is what percentage of a student's experience in the classroom is led by a full-time faculty member, that's probably what we should measure. But I understand why, in a effort to compromise and make sure folks could achieve a goal, we've generated. But I just want to make sure that everybody on the board gets that this number does not actually tell you what percentage of hours of instruction by a full-time faculty member a student would experience.
That's correct.
So do we know that number for these districts? I mean, is there a separate chart somewhere that's being generated? No, because it's not required under the Ed Code, since we didn't make a regulation that actually measures the overall goal.
Correct.
Right. So we don't actually know that number.
Yeah, that's correct. So what they report to us is their total tenure track full-time faculty. So they don't report to us how much are, instructional versus non-instructional. So we would need that breakdown.
Right. Just, Mr. Chair, does anybody from the faculty, Julie Bruno, have a comment on that might be able to provide me some insight? Can I do that, Jeff?
Go ahead and we'll fill out the form, and then.
Good morning, board members. I've been following the conversation, and it's been a little. This is tricky stuff here, and President Baum, you're absolutely right. We know that full-time faculty are really the value that our students need, and they stay much more connected in our colleges, and all of those things. Our part-time faculty are also really wonderful, of course, in trying to keep their commitment to students too. Mario is much more familiar with the numbers. I can tell you that we are very low on that 75-25, and Lynette's right. We do have a work group that's sort of looking at it, but there's an interplay with the full-time faculty obligation number as well as the 50% law. So this is very, very complicated, and we would like to continue that work to see if we can find something better. Vice President Estolano, I don't really have I don't have the answer to your question, and I would refer that back to Mario to be able to have the colleges report out, because I think this is probably the closest that we could get to what that percentage is right now with what we know, but it's complex because you do have some faculty that are 100% in the classroom. You have some faculty that are doing other things as well. So it is a more complex calculation.
And I'm sorry, one last thing. And for the elucidation of many board members who weren't here, I remember getting this explanation when I first got on the board, but I don't think I've heard it since. What's the 50% rule? Yeah.
The 50% rule
because we have a lot of new board members.
Is that half of the unrestricted general fund dollars shall be dedicated for the classroom.
Right.
And so with the difference, another one of the differences, these are not just unrestricted general fund dollars. So the increases we've seen in the Student Success and Support Program, any funding from the Strong Workforce Program that will be used on full-time faculty can be included in this number.
Thank you.
Member Burdick?
Julie touched on this, but one of the things that we have to realize is that number is also compromised by the fact that many faculty members are not in the classroom.
Right.
And that comes out of all of these initiatives and grants and things that come to us, where in my department, for example, out of 11 people, we're missing nearly 3 to various part-time initiatives. So that drives that number down considerably.
Move approval.
Okay, we'll deal with the motion first. A motion by Vice President Estolano. Is there a second? A second by Member Burdick. Chancellor?
I just wanted to kind of build on Vice President Estolano's point. I do think it's critical that we find some better measurements of the amount of instruction that's actually occurring with the leadership of full-time faculty. And, we've got up here at the dais, one of our, or at the speaker's table there, one of the state's leading experts, if not the leading expert in attendance accounting for our system, Elias Regalado. He's really a stellar member of our team here. And I'd like Mario and Elias maybe to go back and give some thought to, in terms of all the data that we do collect currently, is there some way that we could try to better measure what Vice President Estolano asked about, either directly or even a solid proxy for that? I do think it would help inform the conversation. So thank you for making that point.
Okay, we'll go to a vote. All those. So just so you know, the tangible outcome of this vote, let me just explain from where I sit so we're all clear. If we adopt the recommendation, the districts that are below their obligation will actually have to pay a penalty for not meeting their obligation. So there'll be a fiscal impact. And as I read this, there's 2 districts that currently are below that. And so that is the actual tangible work. And in the past, we've chosen to waive that so that the districts were not financially penalized to do that. But this is to not waive that. Is everybody clear? Yes.
Yes. So in years when the board does not feel there's adequate resources, which it's pretty clear. Years we don't have growth, there's no COLA, there's not enough. We're cutting. They could meet it by one of 2 ways: either maintain their fund, which is not the easiest thing to do, or they could just maintain the same percentage. But in years where there is enough money, like we're recommending there is this year, I think it's fairly clear, they have to meet the increase in fund.
So just to use the San Joaquin Delta example, they're below by 4. If you say $75,000, they will have to pay about a $300,000 penalty for not meeting their obligation. So, any last questions before Member Reed? Chancellor, I'll let the Chancellor respond.
I think there may be a little confusion going on right now. And because we do have 2 cumbersome regulatory requirements with the 50% law and the faculty obligation number. Actually, the faculty obligation number cannot be, that penalty cannot be waived. And so what happens is that if a college fails, it's a district level actually, if a district fails to meet that requirement, that penalty will ultimately be collected. Those resources then will go into the Equal Employment Opportunity Fund and be used to promote diversity in hiring and EEO across the system. It's the 50% law can be waived based on hardship, and this board has waived on a fairly regular basis. And I would say the 50% violations tend to be rare, but when they occur, typically there's something going on in the district. They come in, make their case, and the majority of those cases, those have been waived. But the faculty obligation number cannot be waived. It can be put off in years of fiscal hardship, but ultimately it will be collected and the money will be used for EEO.
Thank you. We're going to go to a vote. All those in favor of the recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any objections?
I stand corrected.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for walking us through that. The one way we were able to do it at Pasadena, we count the number of units taught, and you should be able to then match the units taught to whether it's a full-time or faculty member or part-time faculty member. It should be. I don't know if that's done at every district, but I hope it is. Okay, seeing that, we are going to take a 5-minute break and reconvene at no later than 10:25.